Hey everyone, I hope this finds you well. So, I was listening to some really great preaching today and it left me quite convicted. And I remembered a word I was given that God's got various things for me, He's going to show things to me and do things through me, and that I must always remember that they're actually not for me, they're for others. So, the Lord's been giving me a lot of insight and revelation, which I've been finding really exciting. And then suddenly it stopped. It slowed down. And I was wondering why. And I realized it's because I've only been brave talking to my home group and sharing with people I know and trust, but I haven't been putting my content on here. And I believe I'm meant to. So I felt like some of the stuff I'm getting is pretty wild to some people, and there's going to be some responses. I've lost lots of followers lately because I'm getting bolder, so I know that I'm not here to tickle people's ears. I'm not here to say things to make people feel happy. Part of my role as a human being called of God, and the calling on me, is to help grow people, to teach people, to challenge people, and to steer them towards God, towards holiness. And one of the things that the Lord's been speaking to me so strongly about the last couple of years is how desperately He wants His bride to get ready for Him, His church to be prepared for Him, and to stop being compromised. I'm not going to go really into that too much today, but it does bring me to what I'm going to talk about and share. And it's time for us to realize that it doesn't matter, it's just a toy. Oh, it doesn't matter, it's just a program, it's just music. It does matter, because you need to have the fear of God. You need to realize what you're letting in, and that God's calling for a clean, consecrated bride. So I'm going to read something that I got revelation on for myself a few months ago, and I should have shared it and I didn't. So apologies for the late arrival, but here it is now. So I'm going to read to you from 1 Samuel chapter 5 so that you have context for what I'm about to share. So the Philistines brought the ark of God from Ebenezer to Ashdod. They took the ark of God into the house of Dagon and set it beside Dagon, their idol. When they of Ashdod arose early in the morrow, behold, Dagon had fallen upon his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and set him in his place again. But when they arose early the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen again on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord, and his head and both the palms of his hands were lying cut off on the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left him. This was the reason neither the priest of Dagon nor any who come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. So it goes on that there was heavy consequences for the people for having their false gods, or their false god, and the Ark of the Covenant in one place. So eventually the Israelites got the Ark of the Covenant back, which was awesome, but you can read that yourself. Samuel's a very exciting read. So the Lord's been teaching me to ask questions as I'm reading the word, and He will give me revelation. So I said, why did Dagon fall? Like the first time he was face down before the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant, of course, represent the presence of God, the Israelite God. So a false God is bowing down before God. I felt like that was pretty self-explanatory. God going, you are not over me, you are under me, I am the one true God. But the next day, when he was found with his head cut off and his palms removed, I was like, why, Lord? Why specifically that? It could have been smashed, it could have been many ways, but it was that. So I did some research, and it turns out that the Philistine people and the people at that time, the Canaanites and various people, believed that if they had a stone or a wooden or a carved deity, they believed that the essence or the spirit of that deity was inside the inanimate object, and that the only way to remove the essence or the spirit of that god was to cut off its head and remove its hands. So I felt like that was a pretty gangster move from God, saying not only will you bow before me, but the second time, but they wouldn't dare to, they didn't dare, or they didn't take their God away. The Lord's like, how dare you? I will remove him. I will kill your God. Because to them, the essence, the spirit of their God had been removed. The thing they worshipped was no longer. So they knew, and then obviously calamity struck. So that was amazing in and of itself, that God will not tolerate false idols, and he will not be in the presence of them. He will not be in a place and that someone wants to host his presence with false things around it. So that's pretty serious. That's in our lives, that's in our homes. What do we have? If we want to host God, what do we have that could prohibit that God wouldn't want to be next to and associated with or competing with? So then I moved on to, what does this Dagon guy look like? So I did a wee research and I found an image of him. And I couldn't believe what I found. He was a fish god, and those of you that know the language will know that it means little fish. It's a play on that, and then it become god of the fish or fish god. So he looks like a merman. From his chest up, full man. From chest down, a fish. So suddenly, every cute mermaid toy, every cute colouring in book, every cute little mermaid outfit and t-shirt with sparkles and stuff that my kids have had when they're younger horrified me. I was like, are you kidding me? Because here's the thing. These gods have gone nowhere. These gods are demons. They're just disembodied spirits, and they still want worshipped. They didn't disappear. They just change from nation to nation. The same god's called the same thing. The same demon is the same thing. And as society changes, so do those things. And so now, if you want to worship, well, I'm sure there's many ways to worship Dagon that aren't as innocent as what I'm saying. However, it's not innocent when your kids are playing mermaids, your kids are watching programs where there's mermaids and sirens and magical powers, and it starts so cute and innocent, but it's not, because this god, this false god, this demon is from the marine kingdom. Absolutely demonic marine demon, and we are having false idols in our home in the shape of toys and mermaids, and letting programs happen where we're paying worship, whether we know it or not, to this false demon marine god. That's not something you want to mess with. That's not something you should be having in your home. So I don't think many people are going to receive this well, and I fear God and not you. So that's why I'm sharing it. I also had another little discovery that I suddenly thought that when I was learning all this, going, hold on, so this was a fish god these people worshipped? And then I thought, didn't I hear something about it being the Ninevites worshipping a fish god too, or something like that? And so I researched, and because a lot of historical evidence isn't there around Jonah and visiting the Ninevites, they can't verify 100% that it was the same god, but they know it was definitely a fish god that the Ninevites worshipped. So don't you think, yet again, it's another gangster move from God when you've got a people who worship a marine kingdom demon, a fish god, and the prophet of the one true Lord turns up in a giant fish. Amazing. God is amazing. And no wonder Jonah didn't want to go, and because he knew that they were going to turn, and he didn't want them to, because he knew they were wicked people. But God's mercy is so amazing, and it makes a lot more sense when Jonah was saying, just throw me overboard, when there was the storm, and he knew that it was because of him, and he knew that it was all about a fish god. He knew it was a marine kingdom situation, so of course he jumped into the water and God did that. So Jonah's actions make more sense, and the fact that they all just turned straight away to the prophet of, when the prophet of God turned up and gave the message, they responded because they were met with such a sign. So we feel like it's a sign for us, talking about the 3 days in the belly of the fish or the whale, whatever you think it is, of the Jesus dying and being resurrected 3 days later. And that is definitely symbolic of that. But a bigger sign to the Ninevites at the time was that the prophet of God turned up having a ride from the fish. So pretty amazing. So anyway, my point to this is we don't want to be worshipping these false gods. And if you think it's not a big deal, this Dagon guy, do you want to know who his kid is? Baal. Dagon is Baal's father. So in the pantheon of Baal, very disgusting, revolting. If that's your offspring, that's not good. So just know that you don't want that in your house. Clean your house. Be uncompromised. Know your word. And I've repented for unintentionally having false idols and false gods in my house that I did not know about. So I just encourage you to go do the same and to read the word of God with an open heart and with questions, saying, well, why was that like that? Why was that like that? Because God will always reveal amazing mysteries in his word. It's a living word. It's not a book that you can read once like a novel and think, cool, that's all I've got to get. The more and more and more you read this book, the more you learn of God, because it is living. So may this bless you, may this challenge you, and know that God's got so much for you, and that he's the biggest gangster of them all. I don't mean in a bad way. I mean he's amazing. Just amazing.